Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in human nature and its remaking by W.E. Hocking, first published in 1918. We're into our third lesson now. We're into the pages 87 to 125. We're going to take a look at conscience and theoretical will, but we'll have one more lesson after this before we do a composite. We're not quite ready for a composite, but this lesson does contribute a lot of information toward that composite. In fact, I'll give you the internal triad to Hocking's system. His internal triad is centrality, sorting, and system. Centrality, sorting, and system. That is his internal triad. Centrality, we reach centrality when we seek the truth in dialogue. And then this lesson is going to discuss the sorting of the ideals and arranging them in a proper systematic way, which will enable the next step of system. So the internal triad is centrality, sorting, and system. And this contributes quite a bit to that second moment of sorting the ideals, sorting and arranging the eidos ideals. Let's begin with block 1 and take a look at awakening to oughtness and conscience. The self is a political animal. Political life is the realm of distinguished action, a realm that has principles contending with each other for priority. The questions of rights and obligation are raised in this area. We desire to posit our moral perceptions in this political realm. We engage in the production of first principles and states of self-identity whenever we enter into the political realm of action. But to do so, we are also becoming moral agent. We're transitioning out of the realm of the sensate and into the realm of the moral in order to reach that realm of political action and praxis. So under moral agent, human conscience is both a part of our original nature and it's a learned part of the remaking of our original nature. So there is some innate presence prior to learning and remaking. Subjective social consciousness and objective social pressure create a preliminary vocabulary of the ought. And that's, remember last lesson we'd reached social consciousness. And now he's telling us that social consciousness leads us to that all-important moment of vocabulary. Remember, Hocking qualifies personalism by introducing the word. In other words, precise concepts with precise definitions. And he says that becomes the force and the power of any phenomenology, any personalism. So that's an important statement for us here that he makes, that subjective social consciousness and objective social pressure causes us to create a first moral vocabulary of the ought. But oughtness can only function as a sign by it being internalized and fully understood. So oughtness is both learned and it is, Hocking says, it's an awakening. We awaken to moral obligation in the realm of political action. And this is because it appeals to our own self-judgment, our own self-identity. So the practical animal and the moral agent awaken to moral oughtness. As a political animal with a moral agency vocabulary, we are awakened to the realm of oughtness and the realm of political praxis. The self acquires a group of secondary instincts, those those instincts that have been qualified by intelligent, rational contemplation, that become the counterbalance to the primitive impulses. It's a group of secondary instincts. And that becomes the foundation of conscience. That's where conscience begins. It'll be refined as we continue through the dialectic. I mean, conscience is an ongoing, growing conscience. It's developmental. But the foundation is this moment of sorting and forming this group of secondary instincts to balance the primitive impulses. And it is implemented through a process of subsuming. It's not a list of prescripts. It's a process of subsuming under a systematic filter that we will construct of our notion of the true, our notion of the kingdom. Conscience begins with our disposition to find an object of devotion, an object of authority. We're seeking to define the kingdom of God, the kingdom of truth. And that is going to be a personalism that seeks this object of devotion and authority. Conscience craves for an object of loyalty, and this conscience that is developing becomes the regulator of the political life of action. It becomes the regulator. So this sorting and regulation of what we acquire in social consciousness and dialogue, that's going to be the step immediately before positing a system. So block 2, we move from the political self to forming a model of ideals. That means we're going to have to pass through that stage of sorting to actually form a model of ideals. The political self, there is a distinction between the logic of things, the order of things, and objective reality, and the logic of mind, where we subjectively and rationally try to define the real. Objectively, the real is always present. Subjectively, the real retains the dimensions of past, present, and future. We are aware of and retain those dimensions. Principles in their opposition remain preserved in consciousness. And they are in need of reconciliation. That's what the dialectic of praxis is going to be about. We have to resolve, we have to redeem, we have to resolve these competing principles. They are in need of reconciliation. We are a moral agent. We sometimes tend to weaken our guilt by declaring that common misdeeds are just natural impulses. But Hocking says emphatically, impulses are always accompanied by a mental environment supplied by the self-secondary instincts, or that qualified will to power. We have that will to power, that aggressiveness to actualize that which we have perceived, but it is qualified somewhat. We don't let it rule, because the rational is what rules and defines our mental environment. And the mental environment supplies a preliminary central purpose, a teleology emerges. This is that centrality that we need, that functions as a horizon and functions as an interpretive filter. We have to have that. So I've got a little bit of an inserted diagram here at the bottom of block 2. It kind of summarizes block 1 and block 2. The political self begins with that desire to enter the practical realm of praxis, and we are filled with contending eidos ideals that we have acquired at the Kunta threshold of dialogue. And our social awareness allows us to also be moral agent and to deal with these contending eidos ideals. And by keeping that moral agency active, we are awakened to conscience, which is the regulator of the eidos ideals. And with that regulator of conscience, we enter the true logic of mind. And logic of mind, that's a logic that does sorting. It sorts, prioritizes, arranges in a geometric fashion the eidos ideals. So we move on to that logic of mind. And by doing so, we form a refined mental environment that's going to determine our positing. And then from this mental environment, we will move on to actually entering that realm of system and positing. So it kind of shows you right there in the inserted diagram the aspect of centrality, system, centrality, sorting, and system. Centrality, sorting, and system. But we're going to talk about that sorting right now on block 3. Sorting interpretation within the theoretical will. The substance of content. The particular impulses give substance to the central will and the mental environment. Now, it should be pointed out here that one thing that's different with Hocking, he never gets rid of impulses, okay? He doesn't, when he even moves into the realm of the true, we have not lost our impulses. When we get into the realm of the true, what we really gain is the form of the true that helps us to guide our impulses. We don't ever get rid of impulses. They are not simply in the realm of the sensate. We always have these impulses. And so he says that the particular impulses supply substance to our theoretical will and to our mental environment. They have some concrete content, a particularity. The vigor of will, which is called will to power by some philosophers, is called pugnacity by Hocking, or aggression, needs to be guided. We can't take it as the will to power can't be taken as a system, but we need its self-actualization power to be coupled along with our theoretical will. So the central will begins as a general unity and then is refinement through the sorted content. Moral character equals, here's key statement, sorting concrete impulses according to the rational central will. So we gained that centrality in dialogue, remember. There's your definition. How do we move on to becoming moral agent before we posit our praxis of dialectic? Well, he gives us a definition. He is keen on definition, remember. Moral character equals sorting concrete impulses according to rational central will. That horizon of the true, it's kind of a proto-teleology. Now, there is a possibility of a deficiency in sorting, so that must be negated. A sinful act means a sin results from deficiency of interpretation because we exclude the mental horizon, which is our interpretive lens. The will to power is still needed for its aggressiveness, but not as a system of lesser ideals. So will to power, Hocking says, we marginalize, we bracket it, but retain it. We bracket it, we marginalize it, but we do retain it. We need that self-actualizing power, but it is bracketed. So sorting plus negation of deficiency equals a refined thought system, which is our goal. Before you can enter the realm of political positing and praxis, you have to have that. So we reach that refined thought system. Pugnacity, or will to power, is a lesser thought system, but necessary. We must readjust system in favor of a more complete thought system. Will to power is enlisted to some degree, But the psychological ingredients of virtue are those that are sorted out according to our mental horizon, and we start geometrically erasing these psychological ingredients of virtue. Now, we really do put together the IDOS ideals with the horizon of virtue. The horizon is virtue. And the horizon of virtue is our interpretive filter. I should say it's our interpretive filter and our sorting filter. It is our sorting filter. So I've got a consummate inserted little chart there to the right in block 3. And we begin with a mental environment of a centrality of will, a general unity that we've kind of picked up through dialogue at the Dakunta threshold. But we still have, Hocking never gets rid of the concrete particular impulses. We still have concrete particular impulses. They're part of our life. They remain a part of our life, and they're even in the realm of the true. But we want to focus on the psychological virtues that are within those retained particular impulses. So, 3, we marginalize a will to power, but retain its pugnacity, its aggressiveness. We retain self-actualization, but we do not allow it to be the dominant system. That leads to authentic moral sorting of impulse particulars according to the mental horizon of virtue. And that yields, lo and behold, a readjusted thought system ready to be posited in praxis, political action, and ministry. Hugely significant here. So we have a great lesson on how we put together this internal triad of centrality, sorting, and system. Centrality, sorting, and system. And that's your recall triad. Just remember, centrality, where we do discover that central horizon of virtue in dialogue with others. But then sorting, we have to sort the IDOS ideals we gained in dialogue and arrange them in a geometric, systematic way, prioritize sums, and abbreviate others. And that means we got to marginalize will to power to do proper moral sorting, and then we have a resultant systematic thought system, more than mental environment. It is now mature thought system, not just mental environment. But that's your recall triad: centrality, sorting, and system. Centrality, sorting, and system. And we're going to pick up, that took us through chapter 19. We'll pick up next time in chapter 20.